Hi, I'm Ashley Quinton for the 30 News. On today's show, we will be discussing the UWSA's confusion over such topics as the BDS Referendum and problems with the election process. At Thursday's meeting, council members were supposed to meet to discuss these issues, but they did not have quorum, so the meeting never happened. This means the last council meeting will be the annual general meeting, which has now been postponed to an unknown date. I'm in studio with Sarah Hopper, a third-year law student and an active member of None of the Above campaign, to talk about the process of the AGM. Hi, Sarah. What do you think your biggest issue with the UWSA is?
I think my biggest problem is there seems to be a systemic disconnect between the representatives and their duties with respect to the corporation, as UWSA is, and as advocates of the student body.
Could you give me an example of that?
I would say in light of recent events, attending council meetings, some of the correspondence that I've had with some of the members, I don't know if they don't know the rules that they're governed by or just don't care, and I'm not positive what's worse. But in either case, that is a cause for concern for every student.
And now the AGM meeting will hopefully be held in April. What are some of the things that can be done at the AGM?
Well, under the Constitution and bylaws, they virtually give you the authority to change anything. I would say that the biggest problem that anybody would run into is ensuring that those who are there are actually valid members and could vote. And I would suggest that, given recent events, that might be a cause for concern again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Now to take a look back at what got us here in the first place. Last week, the 30 got their hands on a leaked document, and it was sent out to the UWSA council members. Following that, the council chair ruled the BDS referendum out of order. Jason Rankin reports.
Last week, the University of Windsor released human rights lawyer Raj Anand's report on the process of the UWSA's referendum to join BDS, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, to the Student Council. The 30 News obtained a copy of this report that said the referendum was illegitimate because its number of eligible signatures was less than the required 500. This week, the council chair ruled that the BDS referendum was out of order.
There were some 520 signatures, but no one ever counted those signatures. And so this Monday I went into the office, I got the signatures and I counted them up, and it turns out less duplicates, because some people had signed twice and some people had signed 3 times. Less those duplicates, we had 466 signatures, which was not enough to validly pass the referendum with a simple majority. And since the vote only passed 13 to 11, and that wasn't enough to constitute the supermajority required without the signatures, I had to rule the referendum out of order and then nullify the results.
As well, Raj Anand's report also said that the council's vote to greenlight the referendum on November 27th was illegitimate because Vice President External Mohammed Akbar and Vice President Omar Shahid weren't registered students, therefore being unable to hold office and vote. As well, Sami Habib, a voting proxy at the meeting, was found to be a non-UWSA member on this date, and thus ineligible to hold proxy. Without these 3 members, the vote would not have had quorum. We talked to Akbar about the allegations against him in the investigation.
So when I ran for executive the first time, I was a student. And I still took classes in the first semester, but I dropped them because that was the year that we saved students $500,000, and that was an initiative that I started. And because of the amount of work I had to put in to get students those $500,000 in refunds, I didn't have time to take classes. As someone who's paid to work for students, I shouldn't be taking classes and not putting my time in working for students.
Akbar pointed out that previous UWSA presidents and vice presidents have not been students. As well, the council chair said that he could not make a ruling on it.
The way that the Constitution is currently worded, the provision is nonsensical. It requires that a member be both a student, a full-time student, a co-op student, working at the UWSA in the summer term, and an executive, and that doesn't exist. And so I interpreted it basically based on how it's been that clause has been treated in the past 10 years or so. And so I talked to the UWSA general manager, and it turns out executives have never been required to take courses and never been told they had to take courses. And so as a result, I said they didn't have to take courses in order to be validly on council.
UWindsor Chief Communications Officer Holly Ward said that the president could not discuss the report. She also said, quote, The report itself is a private and confidential document that was sent to the UWSA for their review. For the 30 News, I'm Jason Rankin.
The University of Windsor Student Alliance has had a rocky year involving an investigation into the BDS referendum and nobody being elected to the executive board. But that is just a small portion of the issues the UWSA suffered from over the past few years. Kim Orr, former president of the UWSA, talks about the bigger issue the Student Alliance faces.
I think a lot of the problems that got raised by the None of the Above campaign are systemic problems. Someone's got to address those problems and they've got to be dealt with, and pretending that they don't exist, which has been generally the way they've been dealt with in the past, is not the right way to go about it.
As Orr stated, the UWSA has suffered from systemic issues in the past. Jake DeYoung, Vice President of the University Affairs, gives a few suggestions on what the Alliance could work on.
The issues that I'd like to see changed the most are our bylaws, policies, and our Constitution. I find they're really good guidelines sometimes, but they're not specific enough on some of the issues that we run into over and over again. So one thing that's been called into question a lot this year is how someone's supposed to go through the process of declaring a conflict of interest, when you're supposed to declare a conflict of interest, what constitutes a conflict of interest. It's not clearly defined either through our bylaws or through the Corporations Act or through Robert's Rules.
Jake DeYoung says the systemic issues arise from the initial process of preparing council members.
Our issues stem most of the time with our inability to properly work within our institutional, boundaries, and to that it mostly comes down to improper training.
DeYoung points to the problem that the UWSA does not have access to student enrollment status, but he is concerned that this would breach the student privacy rights.
So if the university released to us that one of our students or one of our counselors was in 3 courses instead of 4 but was considered a full-time student, you guess I could backtrack that to they must have a learning or some sort of registered disability, and we really don't want to get into that debate.
Rob Crawford, president of UWSA, voices what he considers are the biggest systemic flaws in the UWSA.
Proxy issue, I think, is a big issue on our council, because then you run the issue of where you have meetings where you only have a few people in the room that actually know what's going on, and then the rest of the people are proxies that are usually voting on one side or the other. So you get this really competitive nature of council, and I don't think it forces cooperation.
Muhammad Akbar, Vice President of External Affairs, thinks the UWSA students need to look at the Alliance as a whole rather than focusing on specific issues.
More students generally focus on trying to change issues with Fall Reading Week or trying to combat higher tuition fees rather than focus on policy.
Akbar points out comparisons to other universities and how these approaches could benefit the UWSA.
I think one thing that Brock does that we could do better is have more student staff who are focused on governance. So they have like a governance officer, and their chair is, I think, paid more than ours. So they have better paid student staff who are focused more on governance.
Akbar suggests some ways that the UWSA could improve student involvement with the governance process.
I think the UWSA could use its work-study program through the university to get students involved in governance, and that might be the best way to figure out all these issues with the bylaws.
The term for UWSA councillors is up May 1st, leaving only 2 senators, Muhammad El-Sheikh and Julian Passett, the only 2 people running the UWSA throughout the summer. For the 30 News, I'm Andrew Rorai.
Also in campus news, the CJam Referendum vote is currently underway. The University of Windsor radio station is seeking a 99-cent increase per semester, bringing full-time undergraduate students' tuition contribution to $12 for the full calendar school year. CJam says that the increase request is not a result of poor budgeting. It is to avoid layoffs of their modest-sized news staff. Today is the last day to vote on the referendum, and students can do so by voting yes for CJam at www.uwindsor.ca UWSA vote. And banging, bashing, and screeching metal, the University of Windsor's St. Denis Centre is hosting the first Windsor-Essex Great Lakes robotics competition. Brian Kahn tells us more.
We're in Windsor at the first Robotics Regional Championship. It's the inaugural event for Windsor. The idea is to grow the experience of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the Windsor community.
John Hobbins, director of FIRST Robotics Canada, tells us about the Windsor-Essex Great Lakes Regional Tournament, where 40 teams from all over North America compete for a spot in the World Championship.
Well, it gives the kids an opportunity to take the learnings that they've developed in school and their skills that they've learned through working collaboratively with industry mentors, and to take those, to put them together in an applicable way and to solve a problem that's proposed by NASA that sends out a challenge each year. And what happens to be this game where they have robots that have to work together, passing a ball back and forth to each other to score points.
Mike Soltz, Executive VP of Valiant, a local technology company, is the platinum sponsor of the event.
Many people are aware in the city of Windsor, skilled trades seems to be a little bit set back over the last several years. So seeing these kids utilizing skilled trades in these areas hopefully will create some new venues for their future and making selections into the future much easier of what trade they'd like to get into. Well, for the city, it's a great time to motivate.
I'm not telling you what to do. Did you get a student maybe?
Please.
Students. Motivation of young people in high school, very important to get them out and get them seeing what's available to them and making valuable career choices with their futures, very important moving forward.
Out of the tournament, 6 teams will have the opportunity to go to the World Championships in St. Louis, Missouri in 3 weeks' time. For the 30 News, I'm Brian Kahn.
And now we will be playing a trailer done by 2 of our reporters regarding the future of journalism. After the video, Jason Rankin will join me in studio to do a Q&A.
Some things have changed and some things haven't. It's been part evolution and part revolution. So for instance, here we are driving out to a story. Well, that has not changed.
We're actually 2 full-time people less, but we produce twice as much content as we used to.
Hits online are going through the roof. They have been rising steadily and still are.
If somebody tweets out a reaction to something and you get a hold of that, that's information that you can automatically use right away.
That's not to say that a newspaper becomes a TV station, but I think a newspaper website can deliver video, and it has been since, I left the Gulf Mercury 3 years ago.
Twitter has made competition much more intense.
We've enabled everyone to be a journalist.
I'm joined in studio with Jason Rankin, one of our reporters working on his capstone project. So Jay, what is this Journalism Today project you're working on?
Well, it's what it sounds like. We're following journalists on the job, we're quizzing them, asking them the hard questions, trying to get to the core of what journalism was, what it is, and what it will be.
And what have you found in your research?
Well, I found my project sidekick and I, Brian Kahn. We've talked to everyone from new and old journalists and editors at CBC, Blackburn Radio, with Windsor Star. And what we found was that over the past 30 years or so, there's been such a drastic change in technology. Film and audio are no longer cut on tape, and splicing doesn't involve all those precise cuts with the razor blade, unless of course you're like really angry at your computer or something, which does not end well. We have cell phones now, which are like a third arm to everybody. You can pretty much reach anybody at any time through calling, texting, and emailing. And these developments have greatly, in a way, kind of sped up the journalism the process and changed it.
What do you think is your idea of the biggest change so far?
What we found is that the internet is the biggest change. Growing up, me and you, with the internet, it's such a big part of our lives nowadays. It's completely changed the game. It's creating a melting pot where print, radio, and TV can mix and mingle. As well, it's usually cheap, a free medium to use, and people can just access it wherever they are on their cell phone, their tablet, their computer. Accessibility is key with it. And it's also kind of phasing out some of the other mediums, sadly, like newspapers are shrinking, TVs, people are unplugging from it, and the internet, it's just where everything is. Again, it's new ways. It's offered new ways of communication for people. There's email, as I mentioned earlier, I believe. And as well, we have like Twitter, Facebook, all these things that people are on all the time, and you can message people through it, you can give shout outs to them, and it's also a way to disseminate news.
What do you think that means for the future of journalism?
Well, we're going to see robots, lots of giant robots in the future. Well, actually, we might be seeing drones and stuff like that, doing cameras and stuff like that, to help people doing their stand-ups and stuff like that. But as well, really, 30 years ago, nobody really knew what it was going to be like today. Nobody really predicted the internet was going to be such a big impact. Well, some people probably did. I definitely didn't. I wasn't even alive then. But with all of this internet, all this new technology picking up, I do see like newspapers, TV continue to decline in a way. But in a way, the heart of these things are still being brought to the internet, and these things are still going to cling to life as well.
Thanks, Jay. That was very interesting. And now into sports. The NCAA March Madness is underway, and many fans have the itch to pick the perfect bracket to make some easy money. But is it really easy money? Brendan Johnson tells us more.
It's time again for basketball fans and sports gamblers to rejoice at the excitement of the NCAA March Madness basketball tournament. The tournament features 64 of America's top college basketball teams pitted against each other in a one-loss elimination tournament. Many sports fans and gamblers alike are attempting to win big by picking the perfect bracket for this year's tournament.
Assuming that every team is equally likely, which is not true, but if every team is equally likely to win a given game when they get there, the probability of getting every game correct in your predictions is 1 over 9 quintillion. So it's absolutely enormous. This is not like Lotto Max, where the probability is 1 out of 29 million. No, we're talking about something far, far, far less likely.
Dr. Halinka also said that if each team were given an equal rating, they would all share the same 1 in 64th shot at winning the tournament.
Sports fans like Matt Soda have been putting their brackets to the test this year to see if they can win some money.
Usually every year I'm in a pool. Last year I won about $200 in a family pool, and this year I'm in a pool for about $320, but it was about $20 to enter, so usually it's about $20 every year you lose to win a couple hundred.
Statistics from the Nevada Gaming Commission place legal wagering on March Madness at $80 to $90 million. However, it is unknown how much money is waged illegally on the 63-game tournament.
The championship game is slated for Monday, April 7th, and much will surely be riding on it for both players and gamblers. For the 30 News, Brendan Johnson reporting.
That is it for the 30 News. Thanks for tuning in.